Fresh Fields, 1984 to 1986, was a charming British sitcom that captured the hearts of audiences with its light-hearted humor and relatable story of everyday married life. The show brought together a talented cast whose performances made the series unforgettable. But after 41 years since Fresh Fields first aired, many fans wonder what happened to the beloved stars in 2025. Some enjoyed long and successful careers, while others faced personal challenges and heartbreaking moments. Let's take a look back at the cast of Fresh Fields, then and now, and discover the surprising and emotional stories of their lives after the spotlight. Anton Rogers, born on January 10, 1933, was 51 years old when he stepped into the role of William Fields in Fresh Fields in 1984. William, the somewhat clumsy yet ever-loving husband, became a beloved character, embodying the essence of an affectionate, albeit bumbling, partner. His life on screen was one of warm humor, where his character often found himself in tricky yet comical situations. Off-screen, however, Rogers' personal life was far less cheerful. His marriage to actress Sally Rogers, whom he married in the early 1960s, was marred by years of separation and estrangement. They had 2 children, but the strain of their fractured relationship and his constant commitment to his career caused emotional turmoil for everyone involved. Despite his success in television and theater, Rogers faced the tragedy of personal loss. His son tragically passed away in a car accident, a blow that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He also battled with depression, struggling to reconcile his public persona with the sadness he faced behind closed doors. Even as his career flourished with notable roles in the sitcoms Fresh Fields and May to December, Rogers' personal life continued to crumble. His declining health and his tragic inability to find peace in his family life marked his later years. Anton Rogers passed away on December 1, 2007, at the age of 74. Eric Dodson was born on December 1, 1920, and was 64 years old when he began portraying Henry Richardson, the calm and collected husband of Margaret, in Fresh Fields in 1984. Henry, a character defined by his stoic demeanor and rationality, was a perfect foil to his wife's sharp tongue and fiery temperament. However, the life of Eric Dodson, unlike his character, was far from calm. Dodson had been married twice before, both marriages ending in heart-wrenching divorce. His first wife, a fellow actress, left him for a director, a betrayal that shattered Dodson's belief in love and companionship. His second marriage, which produced a son, ended when his wife left him for a much younger man, leaving Dodson to raise his child alone. Throughout his life, Dodson struggled with feelings of inadequacy, exacerbated by his failed attempts to break into more prominent roles. While Fresh Fields brought him some recognition, it was short-lived, and Dodson was plagued by financial instability in his later years. His health began to deteriorate, and his isolation deepened. By the time of his passing in January 2000, Dodson, who had once been full of promise, had become a shadow of the man he once was, broken by personal failures and the crushing weight of unfulfilled potential. Anne Beach, born on June 7, 1938, was 46 years old when she portrayed Sonia Barrett, the nosy and eccentric neighbor in Fresh Fields, beginning in 1984. Sonia's character was always involved in the lives of her neighbors, often meddling in affairs that led to amusing and sometimes chaotic situations. However, Beach's own life was far from the comical misadventures of her character. Married briefly to actor John Beach, and faced immense personal tragedy when their son died under devastating circumstances at a young age, a loss that would forever scar her. The pain of this loss seeped into her professional life, and while she continued to appear in roles that showcased her quirky, fun-loving nature, her heart was heavy with grief. Her second marriage was no better, with a deepening sense of isolation, and they soon divorced after years of conflict and emotional distance. The failures of her personal relationships, combined with the haunting memory of her son's death, plagued Beach, leaving her with a deep sense of unfulfillment. As she continued to work in television and theater, her joy on set was often overshadowed by an underlying sadness. In her final years, Anne faced the further devastation of watching her career dwindle as roles became less frequent. She passed away on March 9, 2017, at the age of 78. Ronnie Stevens was born on September 2, 1925, and at the age of 61, he appeared as the hypermarket salesman in Fresh Fields in 1986. His comedic timing and ability to bring humor to even the most mundane of tasks made his brief appearance a memorable one. Yet Stevens' own life was filled with deep sadness and loss. Despite his success on the stage, Stevens struggled with his personal relationships. His first marriage to an aspiring actress fell apart after a few years, marred by infidelity and mutual discontent. Despite the breakdown of his marriage, Stevens went on to marry again, but his second relationship was just as fraught with difficulties, leaving him feeling increasingly disconnected from those around him. His inability to find emotional stability was compounded by his struggle with depression, which plagued him for much of his later years. In his later career, Stevens found himself sidelined, unable to secure prominent roles, and his financial situation began to worsen. The isolation he experienced in his final years was compounded by health problems, and by the time of his death in 2006 at 81, Stevens had become a figure largely forgotten by the public. His legacy, though filled with moments of brilliance on stage and screen, was overshadowed by a life filled with personal disappointment, emotional isolation, and the fading of a once promising career. Bruce Montague, born on March 24, 1939, was 45 when he took on the role of Abdul Khan in Fresh Fields in 1984. His character was charming and charismatic, but Montague's real-life story was filled with unfortunate events that often overshadowed his on-screen work. Though his role brought him recognition, Montague struggled with personal loss and emotional turmoil that would shape the rest of his life. His first marriage ended tragically when his wife died unexpectedly, leaving Montague deeply grief-stricken and unable to cope with the loss. The sudden death left him devastated, and he found solace in alcohol, which became a destructive coping mechanism. Montague later remarried, but this relationship was strained due to his unresolved grief and the emotional scars from his past. His career, though steady, never reached the heights he hoped for, and he often lamented missed opportunities. In his later years, Montague was diagnosed with cancer, which ravaged his already fragile body. As his health deteriorated, so did his mental well-being, and he became a shadow of the man he once was. He passed away in 2022 at the age of 83, with his life defined by sorrow, missed potential, and a deep-seated loneliness that he could never overcome. Montague's death was a painful reminder that even the brightest personalities can be burdened by profound personal loss and emotional struggles. Terrence Hardiman, born on April 6, 1937, took on the role of Mr. Frobisher in Fresh Fields in 1984 when he was 47. Mr. Frobisher was a strict and rigid character, often clashing with the more free-spirited characters, bringing both comedic tension and an air of authority to the show. However, Hardiman's personal life was riddled with conflict and personal demons that contrasted sharply with his on-screen persona. His first marriage ended in tragedy when his wife fell into severe mental health issues, a struggle that took a toll on Hardiman's emotional well-being and left him with an enduring sense of guilt. He remarried, but this relationship also disintegrated due to infidelity and misunderstandings, leading to another painful divorce. Hardiman's attempts at rebuilding his personal life were marred by his battles with alcoholism, which further isolated him from his children and professional colleagues. His career, though marked by some solid performances, was largely overshadowed by his personal struggles, leaving him with feelings of unfulfilled potential. Despite being highly respected in the theater world, Hardiman could never escape the grip of his personal pain, and by the time of his death in 2023 at 86, he was seen by many as a tragic figure, someone whose true potential remained largely untapped, his life defined by loss, regret, and missed opportunities. Michael Robbins, born on November 14, 1930, was 55 when he joined Fresh Fields in 1985 as Mr. Pringle, a character who was rough around the edges but had a heart of gold. However, Robbins' own life was far from heartwarming. Despite his natural talent, Robbins struggled with career setbacks that left him feeling unfulfilled. He faced a series of personal tragedies that deeply affected his emotional health and relationships. His first marriage ended in heartbreak when his wife, struggling with severe mental health issues, became unable to maintain the relationship, leaving Robbins feeling helpless and abandoned. His second marriage offered no respite, as it was marked by constant fighting, emotional exhaustion, and the eventual collapse of the relationship. Robbins' personal turmoil and the pressure of his diminishing career led him into a downward spiral of depression and isolation. He found some comfort in his work but was constantly haunted by the feeling that he had never truly reached his potential. In the end, Robbins was diagnosed with cancer, a cruel blow that added to the long list of struggles in his life. He passed away on December 11, 1992 at the age of 62, his death a sad conclusion to a life filled with lost opportunities, personal heartbreak, and a career that had never fully blossomed. Stephanie Cole was born on October 5, 1941, and played Mrs. Robertson in Fresh Fields in 1986 at the age of 45. Mrs. Robertson was a sharp, no-nonsense character, known for her dry wit and often sarcastic remarks. While the character brought much-needed humor and complexity to the show, Cole's personal life told a much darker story. Despite her on-screen success, Cole struggled deeply in her personal relationships. Her marriage to a fellow actor was troubled from the start, marked by infidelity and emotional neglect. The marriage ended in a bitter divorce, which left Cole emotionally broken and weary of love. She later entered another relationship that seemed promising but ended in heartache when her partner unexpectedly left her. These personal failures overshadowed her career, which, while steady, never reached the heights she had hoped for. The emotional toll of her personal life led to periods of depression, and she became withdrawn, avoiding public events and retreating from the entertainment industry. As of 2025, at the age of 83, Cole lives a secluded life, far from the public eye, quietly reflecting on the emotional pain that has shaped her existence. The contrast between her tough, sharp-witted character and her vulnerable personal life remains a poignant reminder of the price of fame. Julia McKenzie, born on February 17, 1941, was 43 when she began portraying Hester Fields in Fresh Fields in 1984. Hester was the warm, witty, and resourceful wife, but Mackenzie's own life was far from the stability and warmth her character portrayed. Mackenzie's first marriage was filled with emotional turmoil as her husband became increasingly controlling and emotionally abusive, leading to a bitter divorce that left Mackenzie with lasting scars. Her second marriage, to a man she deeply loved, was tragically short-lived when her husband died suddenly from a heart attack, leaving her devastated and emotionally broken. Without children, Mackenzie struggled with profound loneliness, seeking solace in her work, but always feeling disconnected from those around her. Though her acting career included some significant successes, Mackenzie never felt she achieved the level of recognition she deserved. She often spoke of the deep sadness she felt for not being able to live a life that aligned with her dreams, and her personal losses weighed heavily on her. As of 2025, Mackenzie is 84 and lives in seclusion, far from the public eye, battling the ghosts of her past, still struggling with the pain of her unfulfilled life. Timothy Carlton was born on October 4, 1939, and appeared as Mr. Highsmith in Fresh Fields in 1984 at the age of 45. Known for his professionalism and dry humor, Mr. Highsmith brought an air of calm to the chaotic world of the show, yet Carlton's real life was far less composed. Behind the scenes, Carlton struggled with professional dissatisfaction, never quite reaching the career success he had aspired to. His portrayal of the no-nonsense character on Fresh Fields was the highlight of his career, but it was also a role he found increasingly frustrating as he faced a constant battle against typecasting. In his personal life, Carlton's marriage to his first wife ended in a heart-wrenching divorce. The separation left him disillusioned and skeptical about relationships. He struggled with his own feelings of inadequacy, constantly comparing himself to his more successful peers. His mental health took a hit, and depression set in as he faced the realization that he might never achieve the recognition he desired. Despite some minor roles in television and film, he largely withdrew from the public eye. At 85, Carlton lives a quiet, reclusive life, with only a few close friends, still dealing with the emotional scars left by his failed marriage and unfulfilled career. Rebecca Lacey was born on April 20, 1965, and portrayed the maid in Fresh Fields in 1984 at the age of 19. Known for her youthful energy and eagerness to please, Lacey's character was the lighthearted and optimistic presence that contrasted the more serious personalities in the show. Off-screen, however, Lacey's life was anything but lighthearted. Early in her career, she became involved in an abusive relationship with a much older actor, a relationship that left her emotionally scarred and reluctant to trust others. Her family life didn't provide much comfort either, as her parents' marriage was filled with tension, and their eventual divorce left a lasting impact on her. Lacey's personal life continued its downward spiral when she married a fellow actor in her 20s, but the relationship quickly became toxic, with infidelity and emotional neglect at its core. The marriage ended in divorce, deepening her sense of failure and isolation. Her career, too, faced challenges, as she was often typecast in roles that limited her acting range, contributing to her frustration with the industry. As her personal struggles mounted, Lacey withdrew from acting and retreated from the public eye. Now, at 60, she lives a quiet and solitary life, away from the world of entertainment. Fannie Rowe, born on June 26, 1913, was 71 years old when she took on the role of Nancy Penrose, Hester's mother, in Fresh Fields in 1984. Nancy was portrayed as an elegant, domineering figure, a woman who brought a sense of sophistication to the otherwise whimsical world of the Fields family. Yet, the elegance she embodied on screen was a stark contrast to the painful reality of Rowe's own life. Though Rowe never married, her personal life was riddled with sorrow. She lost a close sibling to illness early in her adulthood, an event that marked the beginning of many years of mourning. Rowe's struggles with loneliness, compounded by the pain of personal loss, were evident in her later years. Her success as an actress did little to fill the emotional void she felt, and she found herself increasingly withdrawn from the public eye as she grew older. The tragic irony of her life was that while she portrayed a character who was often seen as providing advice and guidance, Rowe herself felt lost and disconnected from those she once loved. Her years on Fresh Fields were marked by a growing sense of despair, as her health declined and her emotional turmoil only deepened. Rowe passed away on July 31, 1988, at the age of 75, her death a quiet, mournful end to a life filled with loss, isolation, and unhealed wounds. Geraldine Gardner was born on June 23, 1950, and was 35 years old when she joined the cast of Fresh Fields in 1985 as Miss Henshaw. Known for her dry wit and keen observational skills, Miss Henshaw was a character who balanced professionalism with a sharp sense of humor. But behind the scenes, Gardner's life was tragically less comedic and more fraught with heartache. Gardner's first marriage, to a fellow actor, ended tragically after a mere 2 years, marking the start of a series of failed relationships that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Her second marriage, to a man with whom she had no children, began with great promise but quickly deteriorated under the strain of Gardner's mental health struggles. She battled with depression and feelings of inadequacy, compounded by the pressure of maintaining a successful career. As the years wore on, the isolation became unbearable. In the winter of 1987, while struggling with severe emotional distress and feeling abandoned by those closest to her, Gardner tragically took her own life. She died from hypothermia after a deliberate act of suicide in February 1987 at the age of 36, leaving behind an indelible sense of loss in the hearts of her family, friends, and fans. Her passing marked the end of what could have been a promising career, forever overshadowed by the weight of her personal demons. Ballard Berkeley, born on August 6, 1904, was 80 years old when he began portraying Di Penrose, Nancy's husband, and Hester's father, in Fresh Fields in 1984. Berkeley's portrayal of the charming, gentle guy was filled with light-hearted humor, and he was often seen as a calming presence in the tumultuous world of the Fields family. Yet, behind the scenes, his life was filled with personal tragedies. His marriage to actress Beatrix Thompson was marred by infidelity and emotional neglect, and they eventually parted ways after decades of struggle. Despite their divorce, Berkeley remained emotionally invested in his children, but the pain of his personal life left deep scars. His son suffered from long-term mental health issues, a struggle that was heartbreaking for the aging actor. Berkeley's professional life saw periods of success, but as he got older, he found fewer opportunities to perform, and the bitterness of watching his career wane took its toll on his mental and emotional health. Berkeley's later years were marked by illness, loneliness, and a sense of deep regret. He passed away on January 16, 1988, at the age of 83, leaving behind a legacy of talent but also a life defined by personal loss, failed relationships, and the quiet grief of a man who had seen his world slowly slip away. Margaret Courtney was born on November 14, 1923, and was 61 years old when she began portraying Margaret Richardson in Fresh Fields in 1984. Margaret, the sharp-tongued and no-nonsense matriarch of the Richardson family, became a beloved character in British television. Courtney's portrayal of Margaret provided a strong, often humorously scathing counterpoint to the more whimsical elements of the show, but the actress's personal life told a much sadder story. Margaret's first marriage to an actor, whose name remains obscured by time, ended in tragedy after just a few years. The dissolution of their union was marked by Courtney's feelings of abandonment and neglect, as her husband's alcoholism drove a wedge between them, leading to a bitter divorce. The toll of this early heartbreak left Courtney emotionally scarred and unwilling to trust again. Later in life, she entered a second marriage, which, despite her best efforts, also crumbled due to her partner's infidelity and financial irresponsibility. This emotional devastation was compounded by the reality of a difficult career trajectory, where Courtney found herself increasingly sidelined. Her final years were marred by illness, as she battled cancer in relative seclusion. The actress, once renowned for her wit and forthrightness, passed away on February 15, 1996, at the age of 72. Who is your favorite character from Fresh Fields? How do you feel knowing that some of the actors have passed away? Don't hesitate to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this content, please remember to like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss future videos. Thank you so much.